welcome back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show right here in your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
And remember, our goal is always to guide you to personal and financial wellness.
Welcome to I'm telling you, I really think this is going to be the better half of the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show, because we always save the best for last. So we're going into the second half of the show. And you know it's worth it, because if you would have watched the UCLA game this last weekend, you missed one of the best comebacks in college history, including me, and I'm a Bruin fan. We had guests over, and it was 43-10, and I'm like, oh, my pesky Bruins are not going to do so well this year. And then my sister hits me up and goes, are you watching that game?
Yeah, 28 points in the fourth quarter. That's
crazy. Down 44-10 and 145-10. Way to go, Bruins. Yep. Anyways, I had to throw that out there. Yeah. So you don't want to miss the second half. That's my analogy. The second half of the show with Chris Ingram with Ingram Financial Solutions. He's been on our show now for at least 5-6 years, one of our original financial planners. Now Gino's my financial planner, and so many more, so many of our clients. And just a great resource. I love that you're a resource. Again, you're always calm, cool, and collected, because you know your job just like we are. We don't panic over interest rates every day. We know what direction they're going and stuff, and we just advise our clients based on, and I'm going to dive in this because I love the questions you ask your clients, is we ask questions. Well, would your payment going up this matter to you? Make a difference whether you buy this house or not? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, if it goes up $60 a month, I don't know if we can afford it. Well, then let's lock it in now. Because, will $30 a month really change your life and make it that much? No? Okay, let's take care of it. Right. So it's kind of the same thing. I love that Chris Ingram has brought examples. These are beautiful things, because people go, well, I don't know how that would work if there is a correction, because we're talking about a potential correction. There's always corrections in the stock market, as there is in the bond market for my industry and interest rates. So give us some examples from 2008, which is crazy, and 2015 years, if you were to ride the market or panic.
You got it. Yeah, some real life examples. So let me walk you through these. I'll try and go slow so you can kind of follow.
Yeah, we gave you the whole show today, Chris, because it's good stuff.
I like it. I can slow down a little bit. 2008. So 2008, I think it's the worst bear market on record as far as from top to bottom performance-wise. Just horrible. And, a lot of people are looking for another 2000. Everybody's looking for the next 2008. They're so concerned. Mm-hmm. I don't see that. I don't either. That was a financial crisis. I mean, when you have companies like Washington Mutual and Countrywide and Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers that are closing their doors and going out of business, that's a different environment than your typical correction in the market. So thinking that's going to happen, at least in this next correction, is pretty far off. Can it happen again down in the future? Maybe. But, constantly looking for that type of a correction is pretty unlikely.
I agree.
I like using it as an example.
The same thing with the housing bubble. Oh, they were going, house prices going up so much, we're having a housing bubble. We're like, no, they just caught up. Right. It finally, actually, we're still below normal appreciation levels, and people qualify for homes. I'm going to leave it at that.
Right. Right, exactly. So, but I like using 2008 as an example, because most people remember it. They've experienced it. Mm-hmm. They remember how it felt in their gut. Yeah. So 2008, my example I give is, if you became a client of mine, let's say you walked in the door on January 2nd of 2008 and you said, I've got $100,000 and I want to invest it in the S&P 500. Now, I won't go into all the details. You'd have to buy a product that tracked the S&P 500, but we're actually going to use the S&P 500 and pretend that you invested directly in the S&P 500 for this example. So on January 2nd of 2008, if you would have purchased the S&P 500 with $100,000, you would have purchased 70 shares of the S&P 500. That would have been about $98,814, okay? By March 9th of 2009, that was the bottom of the market, okay? Your $98,814 would have been worth $47,357, okay?
I just lost half of my money.
Yes. So you're feeling pretty horrible
You think?
at that time.
Yeah.
And, I hear a lot of people say, hey, the market is just now getting back from what happened in 2008. And it's really not the case. So if you did nothing and you didn't panic, and let's say you said, hey, I got 10 years until retirement, which I talked about on the last segment, or I've got 30 years until retirement, so I'm not going to worry about it. By the way, there has never been a bear market in the history of the stock market that the market has not recovered from. Even the Depression, 2008,
which was dramatic.
We have yet to experience a market environment that we have not recovered from. So going with the mentality that I hear a lot of, well, this is the end. I actually have a Time magazine. My grandfather gave it to me. It's a Time magazine from the 80s, and on the front of it says, stocks are dead. He gave me another one that said, the end of Wall Street. And
awesome.
They've been saying forever, this is it. But it never happens, and it's probably never going to happen unless
something.
We don't
need to go there.
Ruin everybody's day with those possibilities. But so here's the thing: is that if you did nothing today, as of September 1st of 2017, that original $98,814 that you invested back on January 2nd, 2008 would be worth $173,358. Okay,
nice.
You'd be up $74,544, and if you actually take the average annual rate of return on your portfolio for that time period, you'd be averaging 5.83% on your money, which is not a bad rate of return, especially considering that
it went through the worst. Ever.
It started under the absolute worst case scenario,
right,
and has turned out to be a rather decent rate of return in your portfolio. Yeah, and so. That's where I look to people and I say, so here's this ultimate worst case scenario, and we're just about a decade in. So,
well, even worse, if they would have sold because it was so bad, they'd still have $47,000.
That is my next. Well, that is my next scenario.
I jumped ahead.
Yeah, you're jumping the gun, man. So sometimes the best thing to do is just write it out. Now, hey, if you get lucky and you see the writing on the wall and you say, hey, I'm going to move to cash, maybe. But I'll even show you in one of my later examples that sometimes people think they see the writing on the wall and they end up hurting themselves by trying to see the writing on the wall.
I like this stuff.
But hey, if you got lucky, you got out and you got back in at the bottom, I have people tell me all the time they did that, and then I see their statements and they didn't actually do that. So everybody likes to claim that they were that smart, but the reality is most people are not going to make that call. So you'd be fine. You're 10 years in. January of next year would be 10 years since the start of that investment, and you would have a very nice rate of return on your money, and you would have been successful by just sitting on your hands. Okay. So the next scenario is what a lot of people did, and I'm going to make it worst case. Just to show you the worst. But a lot of people got to March of 2009 and they said, I cannot take it anymore. I have to get out.
It's hard to watch.
The end of the world is coming. I've heard people on the phone, they really believe the end of the world is coming and this is it. And they need to pull all their money out and they're going to put it in a mattress. So what happens though is when people sell out at that $47,357 in their portfolio, is they go put it in their mattress for a little while and then the market rallies. And during 2009, when the market was recovering, that whole year, everybody's saying it's phony, it's fake, it's going to recorrect. Don't jump in yet.
Because jobs weren't back yet.
Right.
We had a long way to go.
Everybody was very concerned. So through the course of 2009, most people continued to sit on their hands because the media was telling them this is not real. It's going to correct again. We're in horrible situations, whatever. So most people waited. And if you waited, you probably waited until about the beginning of 2010. And you got into about 2010, you said, hey, the market's actually done pretty good. Things are looking a little bit better. I probably should get my money back into the market and do something. And so what happened is if you decided on the beginning of 2010, your New Year's resolution was, hey, I should get my money back in the market. And on January 4th, 2010, you took that $47,000 and you invested it in the S&P, you would have bought 41 shares of the S&P 500. Okay. Today, that $47,000 would have had a nice rate of return. It would be $101,538.
I know where you're going because people are thinking, wait, I wrote it up from the lows.
Right? So just because you missed March to January of 2009 that initial recovery and rally, what if you would have sat on your hands and did nothing? You'd now have $173,000
because shares.
Yeah, because you pulled out and you jumped back in at the beginning of 2010. You only have $101,000, which is barely more than what you originally started with. Your average annual rate of return at that point is 0.28% a year.
You know, that's a clever thing because you're going, well, how can that be? But I get it now because you had more money, so you were to buy more S&P shares. By going out when you had less money and diving back in, you couldn't buy as many.
Yeah,
so you couldn't ride as much.
Right, you only bought 41 shares, and you missed, from March to January, it was like almost a 50% return. I mean, the market recovered. You missed all of that recovery during that time period. And like Albert Einstein said, compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And if you don't understand compounding interest, you're going to end up paying compounding interest to somebody who does understand compounding interest.
Because, I love it.
It's super important. So, do I have time for one more?
No.
I don't.
We're going to tease you.
Well, we'll have
Luckily
to come
with
back
another
then.
segment.
Yeah.
If you're tuned in, we're here with Chris Ingram with Ingram Financial Solutions, giving you some true life factors about what is going on with the stock market today, your options, some examples if you would have made bad timing choices and all that good stuff. He's got more coming up on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Don't go away. One more killer segment coming back.